Okay, all right, we are continuing our segment on African Americans and wealth, and with me in studio, to my right, Brother Paul Outlaw, and to my left, Brother Jabril Shabazz, and none other than Dr. Talut El-Amin. And I believe Brother Jabril was speaking. And, so tell us a little bit more about, and I think we were talking about leadership, Brother Jabril.
Oh, yeah.
When we
question of leadership.
Question of leadership, and who should provide that in the African community.
In the African tradition, we've always had the council of elders. Now, in the black community here in Memphis, Tennessee, we have somewhat of a council of elders. It's not as prevalent as we would like it, but we have people, men in our community and women, that's of the elder level, that serve counsel to younger people like Brother Paul and other younger people who want to be a part of our transformation, our revolution. And we have always known ourselves to be that kind of senior counselors to our people. Only thing we do, to me, sometimes the moment dictates the movement, or the moment dictates everything that we have to do. So
that makes me think about Bobby Seale.
Okay.
Seize the time.
Seize the time.
Yes.
So therefore, when we have to come together and present that formal council of elders, then we'll be there, because the elders not going anywhere right now. We're going to be here for the youth, because we got to hand this baton over to them so they can know exactly what they must do. And we got to counsel them as they step into these positions, because they are what I call the youth of tomorrow, the leaders of our youth of tomorrow.
Let us know when
so they must they must have proper guidance.
On the clock.
They must have right guidance, and that's what the council of elders are for. Now, Brother Talut, myself, we can consider ourselves. We need to consider ourselves as elders. So and going forward, sooner or later we're going to present that council of elders in the community, where the community people will know who we are. So it's going to happen. It's inevitable, because we have to have certain things. The system of America and the governance of America, we can't adapt that going forward into a new reality and a new future for our children. So we have to sometimes reach back into what we know as our African culture and our African good sense, and start setting up those entities and mechanisms that's going to see our children through. So that council of elders is one of those pertinent points.
Well, one of the things that concerns me is that I think we have to take a look at is the various countries in Africa. Africa is a continent that contains various countries and cultures. So at some point going forward, we have to take a look at that, developing a council of elders going forward. While I'm at it, I want to say something about what I see as a plan, scaling back on money we spend, and I'm going to say foreign places that are not beneficial to the African American community. And I won't put that complete plan on display like we've been talking about, not everything that we're doing, that we do have to be interchangeable, interdependent. We must make a contribution to not just America, but to the world. And the best way to do that is the way in which we've been talking about our culture and our plan and providing leadership for African American people. So if, like Talut said, if we are going to do one thing, it has to be replaced with something else. But going forward, if this takes place, then obviously we have to have a plan and say, we've saved this much money, we've scaled back in these places. Is there a place that can be compatible with the African American community by which we can do business with? And then we...
On the continent, you mean?
No, in this country.
Oh, in this country.
We can come back to, here in this community.
Let me say this before you go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Whatever we need, we're gonna have to build it.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to make it.
Sure.
We got to produce it.
Sure.
And once we produce it, then we'll know that it's ours.
Yeah.
And then we can cater to whatever it is.
Yeah, let me set an example. We see many of these businesses. First of all, we have to take responsibility ourselves, clean up our own community. But we see many of them, we can't say much because many of them never clean up anything. But are we doing any better ourselves? The other thing is, are they making a contribution to the education of our children, what we're talking about? I don't know of any making it. I know of them raking in money, raking in nickels, pennies, and dimes from everybody, from the 2-year-olds all the way up to the 6 and 7-year-olds. I know that. So therefore, there must always be a list of demands because it's political as well as economic in terms of going forward. That's to the statement that I made earlier about scaling back and saving money and reinvestment into the community. Let me go to Paul right quick, then you, Dr. Talut. Tell us something.
There's a lot of issues that we have to deal with. I like what Brother Jabril said. We have to develop our own, build our own, and then once we have developed it, then we can decide what we're going to do with it. I'm a proponent that this system doesn't work. They know it doesn't work, and they're struggling now, trying to keep us in the dark that it's not working. You know, they're having problems over in Europe. The economy collapsed in Europe with Spain and France. They bailed them out. Now they're having problems with Russia. They're having problems here. And the only people that are actually sustaining themselves economically with no problem at all are people in other cultures like China. Mm-hmm. So we must, not all of us, but I believe a lot of us don't recognize that the system that we're in isn't the answer. Mm-hmm. But the answer lies within us to develop and build something else out of what we're dealing with now. And once we do that, we'll be self-sustained. Sure. We'll be able to weather the storm. And as usual, we'll be in our rightful place as leaders of this world. True. So true. But we have to have that confidence that it is within us.
That's true.
Okay. I turn to you, Brother Talut, for clarity and more answers. Mm-hmm. Who is Brother Paul talking about, and does the system of economics, what we call capitalism, working for them, but adversely affecting African Americans? Can you address those two questions?
Well, the capitalist system has failed around the world, okay. And everybody knows that. Mm-hmm. I mean,
is it failing the European Americans as well?
It has failed.
Has failed them as well
around the world.
Yes.
Yeah. So everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. Everybody around the world know that capitalism has failed in the hands of the 1%ers who has been managing it since the 30s. Okay, so the system has failed. Okay, and the proof is the real estate industry, the industry that was taught to be the source of all capitalism, land and material, collapsed. I mean, completely collapsed, gone. May not ever come back like it was before. Wall Street, where the monies are managed, collapsed. The second industry that props up capitalism, the auto industry, collapsed. Okay, so how many collapses do you have to realize that it failed? And the white boys got away with all the money. So the point is, the very people who we believe are the best in business robbed the country and created a failed economic. And the worst people who we've been taught to manage business, black people, hands are clean as a whistle. Has nothing to do with that. Didn't have one thing to do with any of those collapses. So we got to change the narrative.
Sure.
Okay, they failed. Okay, now let's take our turn and show how it's done. Now we know how it's done to a certain degree because many of us was brought up in families whose mothers and fathers raised 10 children on nothing.
That's right.
Virtually nothing, and produced progeny that really has done something, have survived this system, and a system that wants to take us out one by one as fast as they can by filling up prisons like they are and giving us long sentences for nothing. Okay, so it failed.
Jabril.
Yes, sir. You know, I had a thought there. You know, I lost it, but I hope I can regain it.
Sure.
Keep talking.
About the system, you know, and when it got to where real estate failed and the other, the car industry, auto industry failed, that's when they propped the military up. Because the only thing that's in the Western world that protects the dollar bill itself is the military. The military industrial complex. I mean, it's broad now, you know. So if you in Sri Lanka and you have a problem, they got a problem with, you know, the oil being shipped out of there coming to America, and some pirates, you know, take over the plane or what, over the cargo boat, then here comes the military. Just like in Africa now. I mean, they trying to militarize, how that word go? Militarize. The African situation there. Everything don't have to be settled by no gun.
Well,
Diplomacy must, grown men of understanding about who we are as a people on this planet, have to supersede and rise above, you know, the gunplay, the threats of military action and this kind of thing. Because see, I got fed up in Vietnam. You know, that was enough war for me. You know, I hope that, you know, I'm not in a country or a place where there are ever more wars.
yeah.
But Americans have a war footing mentality everywhere. I mean, there's fighting in Iraq, there's fighting in Afghanistan, there's fighting in portions of Africa. They're trying to ease into Somalia and do their business there. You know, they got run out of Somalia one time before, you know, but they're trying to ease back into it, yeah, that kind of thing. See, the gun can't settle everything because the resilience of a person's conviction in their heart, you know, the gun can't supersede that, you know, because they're going to give what they can for the benefit of their own liberation. You know, sometimes you can't shoot an idea.
Yeah.
This time has come.
Yeah.
I think Martin said that, Malcolm, one of them said that you can't kill the idea.
Yeah.
You can shoot at it, you know, your guns and all that stuff, but you can't kill it.
Okay.
Because you shooting at something you can't see. The idea is in the hearts of man. And the suffering black people in this country, we've been suffering so long till, you know, we got all kinds of ideas. Sometimes the ideas conflict. You got so many of them. But you know, the prevailing idea that we have is that we want what we need. And what we need is to have better footing, economical footing, and political footing, and cultural footing, social footing in this country. That's one thing, those are the industries that we're working towards.
So well, that brings to mind something that Paul has said often on this show, and talking about leadership, council of elders, and those of us who have courage and we speak out. Is it, you talk about the suffering of African Americans. They have come to Paul, think and see and feel that it's normal. Now, we talked about capitalism having failed, and that reminds me of some work that, what's the big guy's name? Michael Moore and the lady Rachel Maddow did in saying that the wealth was concentrated in the hands of maybe 400 European.
1%.
And that's the 1%. So, but when I look around, when I go out Whole Foods and on campus, wherever, I see, without doing a scientific survey and study, I still see that European Americans are doing better, they appear to be, than African. The cars look better, the houses look better. I mean, of course, their fashion.
The plastic card that they put into the machine looks better too, I suppose.
Well,
because that's what they put in the
trust
machine. Plastic.
most of them.
Yeah, most of them. Yeah.
Now, and I have heard a few complain about the debt that they are in as well.
Right.
So, is this a great opportunity for African American? Number one, this is a question. Address that question, starting with Paul, coming around the table. And is this a great opportunity for African Americans to stop being victims and become healers of the world? Take off on it, Brother Paul.
Well, we have to take the responsibility of pulling our own selves up by our own bootstraps, meaning that we have gone through some things, but we have an opportunity to learn from them. But we can never negate that in this country, in this society, there is unconscious bias against us. And what I mean by unconscious bias is that white people, just in their innate ability, they just in their subconscious, because of this system, they treat us a certain way. I mean, when we go to the doctor, and it covers the whole gamut. I'm just giving you one example. When you go to the doctor as a black person, the unconscious bias that a doctor will give you treatment and consider you one of those people that are not going to use your medication. You really don't have anything going wrong with you. They don't give you the right test. They don't investigate thoroughly to diagnose you properly. Those are unbiased, unconscious biases. But when they deal with their own, they treat them better. They do more for them. They consider them to be good bill payers. So when you talk about the credit cards, when you talk about the houses, when you talk about the cars, when you talk about getting excellent jobs, there is an unconscious bias against us with the people who are in charge to hire us, to sell us the cars, to sell us the homes, because they're going to charge us more in interest on the cars, on the homes. They're going to give us less money on the jobs. So we have to recognize that we have to do for ourselves. It's time to stop thinking that they're going to do something for us. They are actually handicapped in helping us because of an unconscious bias. They just don't, it's subconscious. It's in their gene, if you will, that they're going to treat us differently from their own counterpart.
Okay.
And we have to recognize that and understand that and realize that it's time for us to do for ourselves. And don't care about what people think when we're talking about black power, uplifting our people, revolution. We don't need to worry about them when it comes to taking care of our own. They don't worry about us.
You said a lot that time. You presented several topics for a panel discussion, I must say, in that particular segue or words of presentation, I must say. So, Brother Talut, are we talking here now? Are we talking about race now and what Tom Joyner on the one-on-one show calls hidden racism? Because there have been some tests that have been run that substantiate some of what he said.
Yeah, there's no such thing as hidden racism.
Okay.
Forget that, counselor. That's corporate way of saying things because you have sponsors behind you who happen to be Caucasian corporate dominant. So you find these nice little ways of putting things. No, it's white supremacy at its best.
White supremacy, okay.
At its best, okay? And it's thousands of years of that stuff.
Yeah.
It has affected the whole world. It's a disease.
That's right.
It's a disease in them, in their minds, and it's a disease in our minds. See, there's a yin-yang effect to white supremacy. You know, on us. I mean, we're raised and we're born and reared to be affected by white supremacy. Okay? So it doesn't matter if we go left, we're going to be affected by it. If we go right, we're going to be affected by it. In other words, if you go get your education and get in corporate America and go on up the ladder all the way up, you're affected by race, white supremacy and racism. And if you just start out on the corner, you're affected by white supremacy and racism.
Okay.
There's no way around it. And our problem is we are taught by corporate America, by TV, and all these talk shows and all this stuff, how to say how we being beat down, robbed, and killed nicely.
Okay.
Very nice. You know, use the best possible shades of language to be as timid and put down as we can to express what's actually happening to us. But once we become men and women, there's no language, there's no certain language, there's no certain way to say somebody that stabbed you in your back and you died and you need help.
Knife still in it?
Right. There's no nice way of saying that. If you can find a nice way, I want to hear it. You know, but I don't think there's a nice way of saying that.
Okay.
And our problem is we really don't want to hurt the white supremacist. We don't want to hurt him. We want him to be a white supremacist and a racist.
And humanitarian.
And at the same time, we believe that. We can believe we can run from that white supremacist who's standing over there with the KKK sign and all the other elements of racism. And we look over there, we see him over there. Then we look over here, he's a humanitarian. We
Speaking.
run over there to humanitarian.
Sponsored by NGO in South Africa somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, Brother Jabril.
Yeah.
Is African Americans, are we the most humanitarian people on the planet? And is there evidence to substantiate that we are more
Well,
humanitarian,
all people of color
more
are
humanitarian?
more humane than the racist white supremacists.
Okay.
All people of color, all over the planet. You can take the globe and you can point anywhere where where colored people are, and you can they take heed to their surrounding. They're locked in their culture, and their religion is significant in their culture, and they abide and live by that. But here's the only somebody on the planet Earth, this white Anglo-Saxon Christian supremacists, who have who have the reign, so to speak, of controlling every nation state on the planet because he got big guns. So, you know, you anger him and he point that big gun at you. And then you kind of acquiesce to the size of that barrel of that gun, you know. But see, he can't afford to mess with nobody like Russia. Because Russia got big guns too. China,
So
China got big guns.
So are they pussyfooting around with Russia?
Well, they
playing around.
They play. Oh, that's just rhetoric.
Yes,
That's gonna happen up there now.
That's what I say, playing around.
That's all it is. It's rhetoric.
We're gonna do this and we're gonna
They
do
ain't
that.
gonna do nothing.
Well,
We
look, the truth is, if you have an East and a West, and you got Caucasian in the East, you got Caucasian in the West, you damned if you do, you damned if you don't. You run from one to the other, you still running to the other. It don't make any difference. There's no escape. But I just want to say this right quick.
Go ahead.
We've been sold an illusion about the world itself. We think the world is small. Okay? We think,
South Memphis.
yeah, we think in our minds that somebody can control the world. No one can control the world. You know how big the world is? The world is huge. Billions of people. Nobody is controlling it.
That's right.
But if I stand up and say enough to you that I control the world, over a few decades, you think I control the world. Okay? But this is the point. This is the point. This jet plane was lost, so to speak. We believe it's lost. Or it's whatever.
So to speak.
So to speak. But then come along, somebody just let some information slip out that wasn't supposed to slip out of one of the white supremacist means and ways.
Okay.
That is, there's a spot on the earth so remote, we've not discovered it yet. We don't even know, we've not plotted over there. So how is it that on one hand, you know everything that's going on in the world because of your skin color, but then on the other hand, there's somewhere on the earth that we ain't never been.
Yeah, that,
Okay, so think about that. So that is colonization at its best, and white supremacists working to cause people of color, more and more, not people of color, but the African American, the American black folks, to think that these people are under control of everything, and make us think that there is nothing they don't know about.
in control.
Yeah, in control. And one other point. I was driving to California, okay, out in the desert, right? Where 200 miles from wherever, and a cop pulled up. You understand? So what does that do? That makes you think there's nowhere you can go where they don't control. But there is somewhere you can go where there's no control of authority or anybody. There's places on this planet that's just as free as it was when it was first created. Authority does not go over the globe like we want to think. Be it China, be it Russia, be it any authority. There are remote places, many of them, thousands and hundreds of thousands, not millions of miles of remote places where there's no government.
Okay.
There's no authority.
Okay.
We
We've
have
got
to accept
a
that.
few more minutes. I want to go back to Brother Jabril, relative to the children and going to European doctors. Am I correct in saying there are more and more African American doctors that we can go to, and that would start building that paradigm up? And also, it's two questions for you. And also, hidden racism. I think you dispelled the hidden racism thing. Racism, two questions. Unconscious, okay. Here's what should be done in terms of producing not just doctors, but what we need through the Garvey Institute relative to the children in terms of having trust in doctors, etc., whom we can turn to for our livelihood and safety. And the other part of that question is, you've traveled. This is for everybody, Paul, Talut, you, and myself. We've all traveled. And do you get the same vibe that I get, that here in Memphis, that hatred and dislike, but I'm still maintaining that what I've seen, I still see in the reality out in the world, that the hatred and dislike for African Americans in Memphis is deep. Now, do you want me to go back and go to the first one?
I think it's,
I'm
going to start with this and go back.
Okay.
I think it's very deep, always have been deep, but it's so subliminal until you can't just put your finger on it right now.
Okay.
Or you can look at something and say, maybe, I don't know. You know, and you
Very
don't know about your business.
I want you to keep talking, but you know what we say here? That we make the sublime clear.
Yeah.
Go ahead and make it clear.
For sure, you know.
Make it clear.
Yeah, but it's subliminal. You know what I mean? You know, you got people, you know, I can't go nowhere without, you know, I go in a store, in a mall, I get out of my car and I'm meeting some white woman and she's smiling. You know, it ain't no speaking, it's just a smile.
Look,
to me,
that is the phoniest, fakest
man,
smile
you know,
I've ever seen.
They can
And
stop
yesterday, they turned 66. Yesterday, I turned 66. Yeah, reach rent. 66 years that I've seen
in the other, that's why.
in my life.
Yeah.
That smile, man, that so-called smile.
Yeah.
What is that?
So I don't know if it's smiling at the gray hair.
Or what?
What? You know, but I know it ain't smiling at me.
Yeah.
You know, but that's what that is. They're just a little,
Yeah.
thing in the cheek there.
Yeah.
You know, they look at you, you know, and it's not speaking. You know, it's not even a bowing, acknowledging you as a human being.
Right.
Anything. It's just a
Right.
and that kind of thing. So, and that's almost universal. Cause you know, I'm seeing it here in Memphis. In other places I go, you know, and you get out of your car and you go into a grocery store, you in somewhere in that community or wherever you are. It's just a smile of acknowledgement or something. I don't know what it is, but it's a new phenomenon to me.
It's an
It's
enigma.
not about it.
It's an enigma, but at some point we're going to uncover that too and make that clear too.
Well, the attitudes change from place to place. Now, 15, 20 years ago when I was in D.C., you know, they were already doing that.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
And so I used to say, well, go ahead.
Let me finish, because I want you to come to
well, we got something for you. This is where I interpret it.
Okay.
There's something for you down the line. You know, all y'all probably gonna be annihilated. You know, that's what I read from it,
Okay.
you know. Because if you smile, you could say hello. You know,
yeah,
as far as I'm concerned, or good morning,
yeah,
you know. But back to the children in
Yeah.
the medical
yeah,
institution or the medical industrial complex.
okay,
You know, to become a doctor in this society, you know, you have to do certain things. You have to meet their protocol. And you meet their protocol, then you can get a doctor's certificate. You know, and that doctor's certificate say that you qualify to administer medicine, you know, to individuals or whatever, you know. But I see that the whole medical industry, medical industrial complex is criminal, as far as I'm concerned. Because the idea is that drugs don't cure, but they prescribe them
yeah,
all the time. And I think that sometimes the drug that we are given, you know, really causes our illnesses. Now the
can we take one more comment?
the latest here now is that
You next, Paul.
the administration of medicine in the Western world is going to be administered through DNA,
Yeah,
through your DNA.
yeah,
This is how they gonna approach this thing going forward. That I understand, that I'm studying, you know, about, you know, that our DNA, your DNA, whatever, is gonna be scientifically designed to your individual DNA.
okay,
Now, I don't understand all the complexities about it,
Okay.
but I think that that's the kind of way medicine are going. But and who own the medical, the AME, and who own the medical institutions? You know what I mean? You know, but our people have been usurped up in it because our people have been afraid to take that MD license and go over here and start your own. Well, a lot of entities,
Yeah,
you know,
one-
that ain't only one.
yeah, one more comment, Brother Paul.
Well,
Last comment.
Well,
We
certification
gotta get out.
and requirements are something they set up to establish a protocol to eliminate our progress in the criminal act.
Sure.
Because once we get to the top of the criminal act, then they know it's going to be some changes just because of the people that we are. And we know that doctors are practitioners, they're practicing, but they're making billions of dollars a year practicing on us through a 501c3.
Why should a humanitarian gesture become multi-billion-dollar
Because it's a criminal
entity?
Because they can only survive through committing crimes. But they legalize it to disguise it as something else, and then when we become eligible to run those industries, they change the laws, they change the
the
rules
whole
again.
culture.
So the medical industry will change
No doubt.
once we start being more prevalent in there. Just like the car industry changed, just like all the other industries that they have. The government is even changing that.
Sure.
You know, once we get
They're
involved
assassinating people right in front of your face
it's
these days. You know,
What-
I mean,
we have
I'm
to
looking
set
at
up our
this
own
and-
system,
Sure.
and we have to be self-sufficient, and we have to just do for ourselves,
Sure.
develop our own economy, support ourselves, and let them fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
Well, I continue to hear what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said a long time ago, there's nothing new. Do for self. So we have to continue to take control of our lives and do for self.